when you get a new phone, they don't download all your information. You have to do it through,
Oh,
yeah. So I was only able to get contacts
huh.
and through this app, and then anything that you had on the phone, like anything you downloaded, you lose it all. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, because they said that they don't want customers, at least in the county I live in,
Mm-hmm.
they were saying they didn't want customers in the building in the store that long. So it's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, depending on which phone what is your new phone and what is your old phone, if they're
Uh-huh.
both Androids, you can probably get an app to help you transfer all the accounts over and all the apps over.
Uh-huh.
If you're switching between iOS and Android, then not much can help you because they're entirely different platforms. But if you're
Right.
switching from iOS to iOS, I think that's like super easy because Apple makes it really easy for people to switch between devices.
Well, the only thing they offered was an app for the contacts, and I did that myself, but
Mm.
they didn't offer anything about the I didn't even look in. I just was doing it right there because it was something that they said, "Hey, we can't have you in here this long." And I was like, "Oh
Hmm.
my gosh." And so
Hmm.
yeah, so now it's not a big deal, but it's I did lose a lot of apps though,
Hmm.
so that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, so you basically have to reinstall the apps and then have to sign
Yeah,
into every single one. Yep,
yeah, yeah,
yep.
yeah.
I know it's a pain to do all that.
Yeah, you get used to your gadgets. You get
Yeah.
uh,
So can you see the screen share that I've shared? Okay. So you're looking at my. So this is actually how I do my lecture. You're not directly looking at you're not directly looking at the Firefox. I'm using OBS. So you're looking at OBS, which in return is looking at Firefox. This allows me to pull things in and out like this really easily. So that's convenient because otherwise, when you want to switch what the screen is capturing, you have to go
right.
back to the option of whatever tool you're using to share the screen. And this way, I can also put a little picture of myself, at the upper right corner, and then at
Yeah.
the lower right corner is a timestamp.
Uh-huh.
So people don't have to do the math in their head, like, okay, Tech started his lecture at 9 o'clock, and then so 45 minutes into the lecture is 9:45. They don't have to do that at all. They can just look at the timestamp anytime they want to, down at the lower right corner
Right.
of the
Right.
recording, and then they can just quickly go like, okay, I need to go forward another 15 minutes or whatever. It's easier to search and locate a specific time this way.
Did you add the timestamp to your recording through OBS?
Yes. So OBS is really flexible. So the picture of myself, up at the upper right corner, that's an
Right.
OBS, source that I can combine with the desktop, and then over here, where the timestamp is located, that's another overlay thing that I can use OBS for. So OBS is really kind of cool because it allows you to use a browser. So it allows you to use a web page as a composite part of whatever you're recording. So
Mm-hmm.
anything you can do with a web page can now be used as an overlay on top of whatever else you're recording,
Okay.
which makes it super flexible. So a
Yeah.
lot of our students know how to do programming in JavaScript and also on
Uh-huh.
the client side. So they can help us, do certain things that we need when we do recording, like timestamps, or it's even possible, if you want to include text messages, that keeps popping up, on
Right.
Discord into the overlay, so that can also be recorded. The one that the one that Discord has is not very it's not very useful. It takes up way too much screen space and it's not very flexible in terms of how wide you can make it to be. But now that I know how to write bots in Discord, potentially we can actually do it ourselves. So we can just
Right.
kind of
Right.
do it. So what you're seeing here is the document for fall 2020, basically software programming, projects. And if so, I got these people. Nick is not an intern, but he's a part of the team. And we just got Jedi here. Hi, Jedi. How are you?
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good. So where's the rest of the team? I thought you guys met separately. Okay, I can send a text message to the team and just say that we are
Okay.
up and running. Okay, so the video chat is up and running now. Okay, there we go. All right, so if they have been paying attention, then they should be able to see that. Okay. All right. So I got these project names. They're kind of wacky project names. One is Professor's Little Helper Project. So basically, these are the things that every professor has to do, like checking prerequisites, tracking who has been attending classes, and who we can add to the wait list, and all kinds of stuff like that. So this is mostly done using Google Sheet at this point. I have some of this kind of code done already. Okay, I can see Nick is here, Tristan is here. Hi, Nick. Hi, Tristan. All right. So we are still missing Mark. We are still missing Sasha and Omar. Okay, well, that's okay. Because I have started recording the whole thing already, as Carol, commented that I tend to, record my stuff. So this is, the Professor's Little Helper project. I got some of the scripts done already for my classes, but they are really just intended for personal use. And for those of you who know, how I do things, they probably need to be polished up a little bit, and somebody has to work on the user interface, user experience side to make it usable to other people. So that's one project. And this one is kind of universal. The Professor's Little Helper is really universal. It can be used by just about any professor teaching online classes. The second project is kind of more interesting, multiple channel video capture. Because the welding department wants to be able to record demonstrations of how to do welding, how to do other things, I guess, also. But they want to be able to do it so that we can have a first-person view, inside the helmet. Okay, how what it looks like when you're welding something using a particular technique or a particular piece of equipment. But at the same time, okay, simultaneously, we want to have external video cameras. So one can be looking from the side, so we can see the posture of the person who's demonstrating, one possibly from the top, one possibly from at an angle. So this way we have more coverage of how something is done. Okay, so this project is really trying to help the welding department to decide, okay, first of all, there's the technical piece of, how do we use possibly a single computer to capture everything, okay? And I think it is possible, okay? I think you can fire up multiple instances of OBS, and each one can either record to a video file locally or stream to YouTube, using a different stream, okay? So I think it's doable. I think welding also wanted us to help design the whole thing, because I think the entire tech ed area is getting a new building. So I think they want some help to kind of decide okay, how do we angle these, and what equipment do we use to fix the camera angle and control the cameras. So it's a little bit more than just what I described here. But for the other parts, we need interior design, we need 3D modeling, and a few other things. So we can just kind of focus on mostly how to configure the software to do things that we need to do. and also how to possibly, okay, this is just my daydream, is to have stereoscopic first-person view. So we'll have two cameras inside the welding helmet. So this way, we can, if we angle it correctly, the person who is viewing this, if they use what is Google Card Box, okay, then they can basically gauge the distance, okay, of the tool versus the piece that they're working on. So hopefully we can do that, okay, is to have stereoscopic first-person view. You guys don't have to mute. I mean, if you want to add to the comment, you can turn on your voice, or you can go ahead and type in the text channel. So if you want to use a text channel, just use the text channel above the voice channel. So this way, it's easier for me to look at what you guys are typing.
For the audio, for the video recording,
Uh-huh.
that means the cameras would be better off to have internal encoding to put less stress on the PC.
Well, we will probably have to decide, how much processing is being done, and it also depends on what type of resources we have on the PC. So right now, I am just doing OBS and doing recording with OBS. I'm not stressing the processor really all that much. But when we have multiple streams, obviously that can be an issue. So if we can find cameras that have built-in encoders that can offload what the main processor has to do, that would be great too. I mean, yeah. So we can take that into consideration when we evaluate what cameras we can use. Now, for the cameras that are in, yeah, go ahead. Hi, Sasha.
Hey, how are you? I pressed it.
We are good. So,
That's just feedback.
yeah, I can hear myself. You guys are not using headphones?
Just switched to my headphone.
Okay. All right. Because if I can hear myself, that means somebody is using a speaker and not a headphone, and that's how the mic can capture the voice. All right. So that's the multiple channel video capture project, which I think can be a lot of fun. Okay, but you probably have to work with someone with 3D modeling and someone who has a 3D printer, or at least some kind of fabrication capability, especially for the fixture that is supposed to be behind the welding helmet, so that the person who is doing the welding can, so it can be fixed to the window of the welding helmet, or it can be worn by the person behind the mask. So it's up to you guys to evaluate which way is better, which way is more practical and it's more workable. So that's the second project. The third project, I call it the pain in the assessment project. So this is my observation. Some people may disagree, okay, but I'm seeing more cases of cheating once I have moved my assessments, the exams, online. So this project is trying to help professors to derive assessments that are less prone to cheating. So I have some tools, but those are only specific for my classes. But I have some general approaches as well that may be applicable across different types of across different disciplines. So so this one is a little bit more open-ended. Paying in the assessment is a little bit more open-ended because it kind of depends on which department we are talking about, what type of material is in the test, and so on and so forth. But it is also kind of fun at the same time, because it's kind of like, it's cheating versus counter cheating versus cheating, right? So it's kind of like a game of chess, okay? You know how those people do things, and now you have to figure out ways to stop that, right? Or make it so that the cost of doing it is high enough that most people would not do it. The last one that I have listed here, which is not exactly the end of the whole thing, because we just got off a meeting with the curriculum people who need some help with the SLO, or Student Learning Outcome Organization. So we might have some need for that too. But let me finish this last one first, and then you guys can jump in and kind of comment on things and say which one you're interested in. All right, so the last one is safety training, and also it relates to assessment of the previous one. But this one is a little bit more specific. I have some links down here, and I have tried out these links so that I think you can open it even if you're not enrolled in a welding class. So they're basically videos, to train people how to be safe when they are welding, or at least bring up important points in welding. Okay, so because they can have a radiation exposure, the high intensity of the UV coming out of the welding arc, that can actually burn people. Okay, you can end up with a UV burn, with the eyes and also skin. Okay, there are fumes, there are electrical potentials, that somebody can get zapped, because of that. So there are a lot of issues, a lot of safety concerns when people need to do welding. So these videos will show you what how the material is presented in a video. But if we want to turn it into an assessment of some kind, like a quiz, what would be a good way to do it? Okay, what kind of tools are available to make this kind of more interactive? Okay, you can play one part of the video, ask a few questions. So there are options here. Okay, so part of the responsibility of people participating in this project is to figure out, okay, what are the tools available, what would be the best way to do it, and also keep in mind that we don't want people to be able to quote unquote cheat out of these things. Okay, we cannot just have someone who has all the answers and then somebody else is just going to copy all the answers down. So those are all the ones that I have listed, but now we have potentially one extra one, which is using Emily's code for the crisis response program, but we are reapplying that engine to help us organize SLOs, or student learning outcomes, from our curricula. So that project is kind of interesting in a way because Nick specifically said, do not tell me to do Google scripting anymore, right? So this one is not Google scripting, it's PHP. I'm not sure which one is worse. Unless Nick says, I can convert this whole project, to Python, which is entirely possible too. Okay, but at this point, sorry. Well, JavaScript has some really interesting features. I'm pretty sure Python has most of those. But at this point, I personally really like JavaScript, just because I think it is really super flexible. And for people who want to have a typed JavaScript, because typing is good, okay, for the rest of the team, okay? Typing is good, having a strongly typed programming language like C, C++, or even Java is good from certain perspectives, because the compiler can catch things that is difficult to catch at runtime, okay? Because with JavaScript, one of the worst things is unless you step on something, you won't know there's an issue. So a lot of times, code that is untested, would go for years without, someone reporting a problem. But the problem has been there since the beginning. It's just that the tools cannot find it easily, okay? But a typed programming language like C and C++, the tool can find more potential mistakes from the get-go. So that's why, there's also a variant of JavaScript called, I think it's called TypeScript, which is just a different front end, excuse me, to enforce type checking, static type checking, so that you're turning JavaScript into a typed programming language. I'm not sure about that, because I really quite enjoy JavaScript having all the flexibility of, oh, you want to create an object? Here it is. It's called open and close braces. Yeah. Yep, and you want to have a member called blah, 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 and it's a function? Not a problem. We can just do an assignment, and now this object has a method called this, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that the one where kind of Randy was
I think the key is, we want to be able to deliver something in a reasonable amount of time. And I have no idea how the VR thing, how long it's gonna take. So that's why, I want to have something that we can deliver in a relatively short amount of time. So we'll call it half a semester, okay? Or maybe even less. Sorry, go ahead.
When I had to take the lab safety training to go to
Mm-hmm.
Berkeley,
Mm-hmm.
they were basically, I mean, I guess you could compare them to PowerPoints in the sense of like it would be a situation, with some kind of video and audio telling you what to do, and then
Mm-hmm.
the next slide would be a situation regarding what you learned, and you had to choose the correct response.
Mm-hmm.
So we could do something like that. That would be very simplistic.
Mm-hmm. And that can be done in Canvas as well. Um, and and other potentials, would be trying to get people to understand what happens when a particular safety practice is not observed, right? So if you don't put on your welding glasses and then you start welding just by squinting at the piece, what's going to happen to your eyes?
Oh, it's just horror just thinking about that.
Yes, it is. And I'll bet you there are pictures on the internet of exactly what happens to those people. Basically, if you're lucky, you just get cataract way ahead of time. Because the UV, this is just very, very intense exposure to UV, which we cannot see, right? So, and some people would say, oh, I just put on my sunglasses then, right? Well, sunglasses, if it's the wrong type of sunglasses, it's even worse because, the sunglasses would lower the intensity of visible light. So your pupil would then open up and go like, oh, this is okay. It feels comfortable. But UV is coming through. You're just
Like
letting.
looking at the sun without the brightness,
Yes.
the visible brightness.
Yes, that's way worse than having the full intensity of the visible brightness because then you go like, oh, that hurts. I don't want to do this anymore. So I think that aspect is also kind of interesting. Is to say what happens if this is not done instead of just telling people you have to do this and do this and do this and do this. We can just kind of go like, well, let's see what happens when we don't do those. So these are just kind of outlines of what each project is what the intent is for each project. Some of these I have ideas and even code base for, and others I have absolutely nothing at this point, which is why you're here, because we are here to kind of brainstorm and think of what we can do, about these projects. So you guys can all kind of chime in, like Omar and Sasha and Mark, you guys can all kind of chime in, or you can just kind of think about this a little bit, and then we can have a different meeting, or you can comment on the document. I'm not sure whether I turned it on or not.
I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the pain in the assessment project,
Mm-hmm.
is that a coding project or is that more of a logistics type?
It's actually more than that. Okay, there is definitely a coding part to it. In CISP 440, for instance, okay, I have an engine that can generate questions. For those of you who have taken CISP 440, you know that we can look at relations, and we can say, okay, this relation is reflexive, this relation is anti-symmetric, this one is transitive, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you can use different qualifications to describe relations, and some of these can be lumped together. They can be one and that, this and that and that and that all at the same time, and others cannot be combined because they're mutually exclusive. Okay, so I have a program to generate potential relations given a particular set, and then the program itself will automatically assess for these qualities that apply to relations. So the program will also rule out ones that are really easy. Okay, this one is obvious. Okay, it only has, let's say, it's only reflexive but not anything else. So I would rule out those simple ones, and I would focus on things that have like multiple properties, and then I will ask questions. Okay, like, okay, given that this is the relation, can you describe its properties? So that's automatically generated, and I can generate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions like these, and so each student would get a different version, right? And it becomes much harder to cheat because they cannot just go like, what was your answer? Oh, okay, I'm just going to copy that, because every person has a different question to begin with, and they are slightly different. Is that describing the coding part, Nick?
Yeah, so we're just trying to find. Okay, yeah, I kind of get it.
Yeah. So it depends on the kind of subject matter too. So in CISP 310, okay. So in CISP 310, I have to look at the names here and see who has suffered from that. I think Sasha took it last semester, right?
I don't know. No,
No,
Mark did.
Mark did. Okay. Oh, but that means you took it before I had the program to generate variations of a buggy program. Okay, so the idea is the question is in the format of, okay, this is the C program, and this is the faulty translation into assembly language. Okay, so you already have the C code, which is the correct code. You already have the assembly code, which is faulty. Okay, so I would put in, let's just say 12 possible faults. Okay, but out of the 12 possible faults, each test question will only get, let's just say 7 of the 12. Okay, so now I have 12 choose 7 variations of this particular test already. And then I would look at sections of code and go like, within this section of code, I can play with the registers, right? So I can, instead of using register A for this purpose, register B for this purpose, and register C for that purpose, I'll just mix them up, right? I would just kind of change, how I use the registers within that context. So this way, if somebody is to copy and paste the code, I can tell right away, because hey, the way this section of code uses the registers is not even close to what your question is supposed to be like. So I can actually tell people who are copying answers from another person's test. So these things are applicable only to CISP 440 and CISP 310 that I teach. So when you ask other professors, let's say a math professor, or someone who's teaching Spanish, somebody who's teaching English, someone who's teaching ESL, they have different types of tests, but you can help them to derive questions that have variations, but also easy to grade, because you can generate the key at the same time, so the teacher doesn't have to kind of mentally work out the solutions for every variation. The variations, each one has a key, so the teacher only has to match up and go like, okay, on the left hand side I have the question, in the middle I have the answer from the student, and then on the right hand side I have the key, so it's easy to grade in that sense.
So this, in particular, is for welding. Yeah.
Right, so we would use welding as our first priority, because our focus this entire semester for the Design Hub is to help the welding department.
So, I'm just trying to get a more clear picture here. Are we looking for a system that lets them come up with? Are they? Well, I guess they can do their science. So this is just regarding exams, then, kind of.
Correct. So we will have to sit down and talk to the professors, and they will have to let us know, what kind of material is being tested. But once we understand what material is being tested, then we can start to brainstorm and try to see if we can have a way to generate all of these variations of a test. And I have some code already that can do some of the really low-level basic mechanisms, like finding permutations, finding combinations, generating variations and stuff like that. So I got some code base already to do all that.
I'll work on that one.
Okay, but that's JavaScript. Well, it's Node.js, same thing.
Yeah, that's fine, but that's more just like logistical stuff. That's not like using all their like libraries and HTTP type stuff. That's just like coding.
Yes, it is just the programming language itself, but now you have to read my code, Nick.
Fine. I like that. I like working with clients per se.
Okay. All right. Um.
One person on that project, or will I have partners? Or
Hmm? Said it. I will make a note that you're interested in this project, and then I'll take a look at what other people have to say. Then I'll help organize probably teams of people on different projects. Okay, Sasha, you were saying something.
Can you talk about the UI UX upgrade for the Professors of Helper project? Because that seems really interesting.
Okay, sure. So the Professor's Little Helper. Right now, I have Google Sheets and also Google Scripts. In combination, will do some of this stuff here. So I can manually take row, and then put it into the spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet can go through people on the wait list and pick out the people who have been attending since the beginning. And if I say, okay, I got room for 3 more people, then the script can go ahead and send permission numbers. It will pull permission numbers from one particular sheet and assign one permission number to each student according to their ordering on the wait list, and send those email out automatically. So it's basically just kind of automating things. But right now, to trigger the code to execute, I have to go to the Google Script window, go to Run, and then pick out the right function and then click on it. Okay. In other words, for a professor who's not a programmer, to do all this stuff here is really kind of problematic, right? So we need some kind of user interface design to tell people how to put information into the Google Sheet, because they have to go to what we call the intranet to retrieve the roster and also the permission numbers at the beginning of the semester. So that needs to be put into specific sheets within a Google Sheet document, and then the script can pick up those items from the sheets in order to automate some of the steps. So we need the UI UX person to look at how to basically bridge the script running interface and how to copy and paste things into the script, because I don't want our project to ever have to get the password to the professor's account, because I don't want that responsibility on anyone, right? So we are going to have to ask the professors and go like, okay, you are going to have to authenticate to your own account on the intranet, copy and paste this table into here, and then click this button, okay? And that button will try to automatically figure things out. So that is the UI UX piece.
It sounds like we should also include a video tutorial as well.
Yes, and also documentation. So documentation is going to be a big thing on every single one of these, because we are not, none of these projects is quote unquote self-serving. All of these are helping external clients, who are not experts of using Google Sheets or Google Script.
Yeah. What are some of the tools that it says here you made some work on Google Script and Google Sheet already?
Yes. So
what are some of those tools that
I can show you.
other professors?
So I can show you some of these projects. If you look at the screen share, it should be showing. So I got this one. Some of these scripts were developed over the summer. And let's look at this. Okay, so I got folders for different exams, and I got some of these are leftover stuff and not really important. So I got this function, called for each student. So this particular function, takes a single callback, which is a callback function, and the way it works is it will go to a particular sheet of a particular spreadsheet in Google Doc and retrieve a certain range out of that spreadsheet. And then for each row, and each row is representing a student, it will basically call the callback, and basically the callback would say what to do for each student in the class. So the callback would actually be given a variety of information, such as what time slot the student has chosen for an exam. It's mostly for that purpose, but it can also be used for other purposes. So for exam 1, it uses for each student, and it would, based on the schedule information. Basically what I did in the summer was I let people choose what time slot they want to use for an exam, but it's not going to be like open for the whole day. Okay, so if you're in the first time slot, then you can only use the first time slot to do your test. So there's a little schedule spreadsheet that handles that. It is collecting information from Google Forms, and then it does its own little processing. Then it will start to assign people to the time slots. So there's that. And let me look through this. Okay, so this one is kind of interesting too, handle X1. So this is a script that I just have to run like maybe 10 minutes before an exam and then 10 minutes right at the end of an exam. So it would basically look at the current time, it would look at the start time and the end time of a particular time slot of an exam, and it would basically either share or unshare documents with students. So I collect answers from my students in an exam using Google Document. So I would share a pre-created Google document with a student at the beginning of the exam, and at the end of the exam, I would unshare the document. So that way, all the answers are basically captured in Google Documents. And this function is universal. Basically, you just run it at the beginning, you run it at the end, and it knows from the current time what it is supposed to do. Is it supposed to share the document, or is it supposed to unshare the document? So I just wrote, helper, scripts like this, and they are not very well structured because I was really kind of pushed for time. So I used a lot of copy, paste, and modify, which I frowned upon, a lot. So yeah. So now I have to frown, in the mirror. I have to look at. And this is a post X2. So the way it works is it would reshare the document, but view only. So each student can see his or her own answer, but it will also share the key as well. So this way the student can look at his or her own answer and look at the correct answer, the key, at the same time. So this is done because it usually takes me a while to get things graded. So this will basically give the student an idea of how he or she did in the test without having to wait for me to finish grading. I got some other really kind of interesting things too. Check daily log is interesting too because for the summer, instead of taking roll the typical way, I pre-share one document for each student and say, okay, here's your daily log. Okay, you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, the script will only test whether it has been updated or modified for that day. Okay, and I use it for basically roll taking purposes. So this particular script will update and add a column to a spreadsheet for each day that it is run, and it will basically note how much time has elapsed since the last update of a daily log for each student. So that way I can quite easily tell, okay, this guy has not been updating the daily log for 6 days. It's time to drop that person. Yep, so that's what one of these projects is about, and I got some additional one, but this gives you an idea of what kind of basic script I have done already.
That's like the useful stuff for the painting the assessment one, yeah?
Yep. Well, painting the assessment has something else. Let me look. Let me share this part here. All right. So. Yeah, the pain in the assessment has this piece. So let me go to the RTAK teachers exams. PA 310 1206. That's the summer session. And it has, so I maintain my own quote unquote library in JavaScript. So it has got some tools. Okay, generate key. No, not that. Let's see. The final exam would be a good one to look at. So it will be 1206-FX Q1 Gen. There we go. All right. So the way this works is I have the template of a program. Okay, so you can see, for those of you who have taken CISP 310 from me, you recognize these mnemonics. So some parts of the program is kind of fixed, and some parts, I have options. And out of the options, you can see how one option is the correct one because I want to be able to automatically generate the key. So I do have to record the correct answer. And then the other one would be what is shown in a student's test, which would be the incorrect code. And it has a comment of how it is incorrect. And also, basically a point value. They're all ones, basically in this test, but I can choose to have certain faults that are worth more points and certain faults that are worth less points. So that's how, this describes the template of the faulty code. And then I have, so I have this program, no, not this. I think I put it into my library. So I have a program that will basically walk through that tree, quote unquote tree, and look at different possibilities. So it would basically generate, 12 choose, I think in this case, 8 let's see. I have to be careful, combinations, not permutations. So it's 12 choose 8 combinations just based on how I choose the 8 out of the 12 faults into a particular question. So there are some code already done like this. So if I go back to my library,
That kind of seems like really.
Yeah, so there's, so this is both for grading and also for generating questions, which also automatically generate the key at the same time. Now, this is specific to CISP 310, okay? Right, but you can kind of reuse a similar idea in, let's say, an ESL class, okay? Because in an ESL class, okay, they probably want to test on several concepts, such as grammar. I don't know exactly what they do, but as long as there's a way to think of variations and different ways of combining things, then a lot of the code that I have in the library can help with that. So they're basically independently, they are, like this one is a Cartesian concatenation function. That's why it's called cart concat. So this is really useful when you want to, how should I put it? So let's say you have 2 variations of the first part of a test, and you have 3 variations for the second part of a test. This function will then be able to generate 6 unique tests, taking into consideration that there are 2 variations for the first part and 3 variations for the second part. So now you have 6 somewhat distinct, tests for 6 different students. Is that kind of describing what I? Yeah, so I have a lot of little tools like this, that can help. They are basically the building blocks, okay, very small building blocks of something bigger that is specific to each subject area. But right now, I only have the finished code for my classes.
I could see something really simple, like for multiple choice questions that just kind of like have a bank of like possible answers, and you know which one it is,
Yep.
And that's something that a lot of classes use multiple choice questions. A very simple way to test people,
Exactly. Right, but the idea is, okay, so one of the problems of certain departments is if they use the test bank from let's say a publisher, okay, the test bank unfortunately is a lot of times published on the internet,
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
So a lot of times people just go to the question, they will highlight the question, right click, Google search, and then they will find the answer right away from the internet. So we want to be able to kind of defeat that type of cheating by generating variations that are so vast and so many that they cannot, just Google search for it. So let's just say that there are, I don't know, I'm thinking like 50 verbs that are introduced in the ESL class, okay, 50. So out of the 50 verbs, okay, in a particular test, okay, so we kind of have to use time limitation too, because given enough time, a lot of things can be done. So we'll just say that, okay, here is a quick quiz, okay, you have 10 minutes to do it. And within the 10 minutes, okay, each test would only use, I don't know, let's say 15 out of the 50 verbs that have been introduced. So now you have 50 choose 15 many variations. Now I understand that some of the variations can be pretty close, like they share, let's say 5-10 words, okay, but they are also different at the same time. So this is the kind of things that we can do for a department like ESL. Is that okay?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, so for math it's kind of the same thing, because if you want to test whether people understand how to how to find the derivative of quadratic equations and whatnot, we can generate variations. And what I find is generating variations like that, math is a little bit different because people can access Mathematica or Alpha Wolfram, and a lot of times those websites not only gives you the answer, but they will also give you the step-by-step proof to the answer. So those departments are a little bit different, but I think welding doesn't have anything quite sophisticated like that.
So is there also like an interface that like not just like this is for like the generation, right? But then is there like a way that you assign like individual generated questions to
Yeah.
students?
Yes. Okay. So okay, let me switch back to the other document. Okay. So this is the actual generation document, and the way it works is it just generates either a plain text file, or in the later version, I now generate HTML documents. So what I do is I name these things. Okay, let me look at the file names. Can you guys see the file names?
Oh yeah, their ID numbers.
Yep, so each file name has a specific ID number, which means each one is specific for one particular student. So I would upload all of these in bulk. Okay, so all of these would just be uploaded in bulk to Google Drive. And then once I get to Google Drive, I would go to the script that I have shown you a little bit earlier, which is handle x2 in this case. So this particular function in Google Script would look at a spreadsheet to see who are the students in this particular class, and it would share a specific file with a specific student. Do you see what I mean, Omar?
Yeah, okay, I see.
Yep. So every student gets his or her own quote unquote unique question, and I just have the students to type the answer into the same document. So when I unshare the document at the end of the exam, I basically quote unquote collect the answer.
And so you when you generate all the files, you upload them to this Google Drive folder.
Yep.
That you use the script on.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So so something like this can also be done with Spanish, because any class that uses a lot of vocabulary, where you can say, well, we have introduced 100 of these words. Okay, of the 100, I think we'll only test 50 or 30 of those, okay? So now you can generate 100 choose 30, which is a huge number of variations. Now, some of the variations can have, like, of the 30 words, maybe 15 are shared, okay? That is entirely possible. But we can also have a post analysis of, to see whether people have been just copying from each other. Because we can analyze, okay, of all the correct answers, are they the same as somebody else who also has the same answers, but everything that is different is wrong. Do you see what I mean? So we can do a lot of stuff with something like this. We can look at the likelihood of things also.
That's pretty in depth. Yeah, I was thinking just like scrambling the order of numbers would throw off most tutors, anyways. But
that's okay. We can start with that.
yeah, that's pretty helpful.
All right.
I think that one's pretty interesting.
Yep. So I think right now we don't have to jump into the coding. I can share this code with all of you like right away, but we don't have to jump into coding. We kind of, I think you guys may need some time to kind of think about what we want to accomplish and look at what is currently available, and then think about, how we can, kind of move, in the direction that we want to go. Any comments?
For our transmittals and like blog week this week, what would you recommend for us to like put on there?
Good thing I have this whole thing being recorded. So you can pick out, things you want to pick out from the video recording and just screenshot it and paste it into your transmittal.
Okay.
And also add your own comment, okay? Add your own insight and go like, well, I think, this is what I want to pick up from these varieties of projects, and this is what I think, I can do for this particular project. So you can just kind of, yeah.
I just wanted to say that that you're picking the work in process transmittal.
Yeah.
So we're totally okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. Because I'm not familiar with the transmittal side. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Jedi.
Yeah, hi. We're talking about the UI right now, right? For like different classes and applying code so that they can make their life or other professors' lives easier.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I understand trying to create variation, but like, do we know what professors we're working with? Like, who we're going to be using this for?
That is a good question. Okay, so we don't know yet. Okay, so we know that we want to work very closely with the welding department. And Veronica, don't we have a scheduled meeting like in the near future with their TA? Yeah.
Yes, we have it on Monday.
Oh, excellent.
At the same time we had it last time, and the TA will come in. But also, in regards of capturing when a student might be cheating, this could be used in further things when they do certification. So, so that's where we would really need this type of a process used in exams. So, so it's not just going to be like a one-time use. Okay.
Okay. Excellent. So I think, does that kind of answer your question, Jedi?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So Veronica, do you want us to be in that meeting too? When I say us, that includes Jedi and all the student interns.
I think they weren't ready for that, the faculty, so they actually said the TA was going to come on board.
Okay.
But they weren't. I want you all to be there, but the faculty wasn't ready for that because
Okay.
I think we're a little bit ahead of what we can do for them, but they're not there yet. So just when they get comfortable, I'm sure by the following week we'll get you all in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So one thing that we can do for now, for sure, is I can share all the code that I have. Okay. Especially for people who have not taken some of my classes. So if you have already taken, I just said the reverse what I intended. So if you have not taken CISP 440, I probably don't want to share, how I generate variations of questions for that class, even though I do intend to write new questions every semester. Still, okay, I don't want other people to say that, well, but you got an inside, source of, how those questions are going to be. So I don't want to find myself or anyone else in an awkward situation like that. So if you have taken CISP 310 and 440 from me, you can get all the source code you want, okay? Not a problem. But if you have not taken one of those two classes, then I won't give you the code for the class that you have not taken. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. But otherwise, the library, I can share the library like right now, because the library only has to do with their helper subroutines, right? So they don't really have the content in it. Those are really just mechanisms, but without content and without context. So I don't have any problem sharing just the library, which is a bunch of code already. So you guys can look at those already. And then for the summer class, the script I have written to share documents, to unshare documents, to send aggregated grades to each student from a spreadsheet, I can share all of that, okay? I just have to hide the names of the students so you don't know who got what grade. But other than that, I can share that code already. So you guys can start to look into that code and just kind of go like, Tech is not really using the best feature of JavaScript over here. You can start to kind of write down your own comment as you read my code. Would that be good for what we are going to do kind of immediately for the next week before we get more information from the welding department as to what we can do for them?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. So
should we tell you what we want to work on, or it's just that's still
yeah, sure. I mean, you can let me know what you want to work on. It doesn't have to be on the shared text channel. You can just DM me also. So I will try my best to assign people to something that they are interested in. So yeah, so we can definitely do that. So Veronica, does this sound good to you?
I think it does. I believe you guys are ready to go, but I just wanted to also say that the meeting that you'll probably be in on the following Tuesday is going to be at 1:15 on Tuesday, 1:15 to 2:15.
Okay,
So let me know if all of you could make it that time. I mean, does that fit your schedules with classes
I'm good with
and
that.
other
Yeah.
What is
1:15?
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
So it's not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that.
Yeah, because
Okay.
this Tuesday we're going to talk about that tack, but I think
Mm-hmm.
you're ready to join.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Send out an email reminder.
I will send a email reminder all the time of the meeting. So, but you'll get it the following week. So I'll add you all to
Okay.
that. Okay.
Okay. Gotcha.
awesome. Thank you.
Excuse me. Whew. Okay. So for those who are really also thinking about fabrication and other types of projects, there's also one little thing that you can kind of think about if you know how to do 3D modeling, because I know I know Tristan probably knows enough about 3D modeling and 3D printing, right?
Fair amount.
Okay, so so if you just want to think about something, okay, so if you have been paying attention to my little picture, in OBS, it seems like I'm actually looking at you, right? That's because I'm using a half mirror, a beam splitter. So I look through the beam splitter onto my screen. So I'm really just looking at the screen, at a portion of my screen. But the beam splitter is also splitting the beam to the side where my USB camera is located. So that's why when I look into the middle part of the screen, which is around here, I'm actually staring right into the camera, which is on the side. So
I thought the camera would be behind the mirror and the image would be to the side or underneath.
that's the usual arrangement, but I found that this way of using the half mirror is actually more productive for me because I need to look at the screen when I'm teaching, right? So
Yes.
my eye wants to be on the screen, and I also want my other screens to be really kind of nearby. So if I want to look at the Discord window, this is what I'm doing right now, is to look into the Discord window to see if anyone has typed something into the text channel. So occasionally you will see me looking to the side, but it's not too much to the side because it's really right next to the half mirror. So if you want to do something so that so when you have conferences with your professor, that you are actually having really good eye contact with your professor, you can look into making something like this. All it really takes is a half mirror, or otherwise known as a beam splitter, and you can use cardboard. Okay, well, cardboard may not be a good material. You can use plywood. Plywood would be good because it's inexpensive and easy to work with. So you can use plywood to make just basically a black box, okay? Just so that you don't have a whole lot of reflections from everywhere. Yep, and also a tripod, quote unquote tripod mount inside the black box. So that's where you can mount your webcam. Okay, so that is relatively inexpensive to make if you know where to source the half mirror. And I think Tap Plastics may have plastic versions of the half mirrors, so that it's worth checking out if this is something that you want to look into, because I will bet you that a lot of professors may be interested in this as well, because I go to a lot of meetings, because I'm also part of the union and a few other things where people want to do online meetings, and a lot of times the camera they're using is from the bottom. It's like they have a camera located at almost the keyboard, looking up to their face, and they're looking at the screen. Okay, they're looking at the screen. They're not even looking at the camera. So
Like a small child looking up.
Not only is it not eye contact, it's nostril contact. You're looking straight up into their nostrils. It's like, okay, maybe not, right? So
Do you want like various configurations depending on their monitor? Or is it going to be a dedicated system?
You can make it so that it's just really lightweight. So the whole thing needs its own tripod mount, and this way you can mount the box itself on a tripod, which is what I have. Okay, and the tripod can be something, depending on how heavy you make that box, you may not even need a very heavy duty tripod. So so it's very portable, right? Because with a tripod you can just move it around, and you can adjust the height and adjust the angle until everything looks right.
Ooh, so you're meaning an external screen, just like a screen panel. So
Yeah.
external.
Yes.
Okay, that makes much more sense.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a picture of all of this stuff here. This is why I like technology. And I'll take a picture of this thing over here. And then I go to Discord on my cell phone to upload the pictures right away.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, just give me a second here. And I'm going to post it over at the text channel that is right on top of the voice channel. And here we go. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. I can upload multiple pictures at the same time. There you go. I have just uploaded, so you will start to see.
Went to the wrong channel.
Oh,
I see it.
did I post it into the wrong?
You went to Dr. Software Dev.
Oh.
Preface tag text.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, I see the images.
Okay, I can do it one more time. Yeah, so I actually spent a little bit too much money on the fixture, but it's already made. Everything is already pre-made. But you can kind of imagine this is not really that difficult to make, because you just need to make a box, a way to mount the mirror, And inside the box, you need to have a tripod mount to mount the camera. And when I say tripod mount, it really is just, I think it's 1/4 inch by 20 in terms of threads. And you can buy inserts, okay? They're inexpensive, okay? You can buy inserts that you can either screw onto wood or you can hammer into wood, depending on whether it's a nail type or whether it has its own thread. So you have to drill a larger hole on the piece of wood and then screw the insert into it. So then now you have a 1/4 inch by 20 thread tripod mount.
Hey, maybe the welding department can make a metal frame for it.
Yeah, the metal frame is really heavy. So then you.
I mean, like not a full frame.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just the bottom part.
A little bit of rigidity on the corners.
Yep.
Like maybe aluminum.
Yep, you can certainly do that too. And then the design should be balanced. So wherever the tripod, wherever you mount the whole box onto the tripod, you want that to be just the right balancing point. So this way it's not putting stress on one side or the other, once you mount it onto the tripod.
To me, it looks like black foam board from the picture.
Yeah, it's matte. That's why it looks like foam board, but it's actually I think it is. Let me check. Looking for. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm looking for magnets to see whether it's. Nope, it does not. It's not ferrous, so I think it's aluminum. It's really quite heavy, actually. It's really quite heavy. And the original purpose of this box is for people doing interviews. Okay, when you're doing interviews on camera, they want people to look at the interviewer instead of the camera. But without a box like this, so the original purpose of this box is a little bit beyond what I'm doing with it. So, it gives the interviewee a way to look straight into the eyes of the interviewer and then have the camera to capture the interviewee so that the interviewee, doesn't have to look into the camera, but, talk to the interviewer. Do you guys, yeah, go ahead.
With your setup, how far away does the screen appear to you?
So the screen right now is the usual distance, which is arm's length. And this is one of the challenges that I have with this setup is the window of the half mirror is only so much. So I can't really capture, I cannot, how should I put it? I cannot push the camera far back enough. And that's why my head is really big in the video, because I'm actually pretty close to the camera, even with the reflection.
So like a widescreen lens would still be an issue?
Okay, let me show you what happens when I turn the camera to the widest screen. Okay, so give me a second here. I'll show you. This is all pretty cool stuff. All right, so I just need to look at myself because I need to refocus. So the camera that I'm using has both zoom and focus control. They're both manual control. So this way I can turn it into the widest format and refocus. Okay, I think that's good enough. It really shows you, yeah, it shows you the mirror is too small. Okay, the frame of the mirror is too small. And as a result, I cannot push the camera back any further to have a more natural view of me and my surrounding. So if you make one, okay, use a larger piece of half mirror, because that will give you the flexibility of placing the camera further back and still capture the entire width, that your webcam is supposed to be able to capture. So with me, I can't do that because the camera is too wide. Yep. And the mirror is too small.
A mirror would pass the screen, but also provide the extra reflection for you.
Right. So a larger half mirror and being able to mount the camera further back would be what would be nice for me.
Okay.
But right now I can't do that. So usually what I do is I just kind of zoom in a little bit, and so this way we don't see the frame of the half mirror. So that's usually how I have it configured.
Yeah, that's the downside of having the
It really is a limitation of how large the mirror is in this case. If I had a larger mirror and a way to mount the camera further back, which is probably just tapping a new hole inside the fixture, so that's not a big issue. But the mirror is only so big, so I can't really change that easily.
That's what I meant. If the camera was where your screen was, then it would just have a unobstructed view for the most part.
Yep.
It wouldn't be using the mirror.
That's correct. Yep, but this is also one kind of interesting project for those of you who are handy, right? Because you can make this whole thing without using a 3D printer, because with plywood, you can use the plywood to do the whole thing. I mean, the half mirror is not that heavy.
Okay.
All right, cool. Anything else you guys want to talk about? I just kind of digressed big time. Nothing else? Okay.
All good.
All right.
I did want to mention to everybody for our first meeting with the welding department, or maybe all of them, they're going to have to be on Google Hangouts because not all of them use Discord. So maybe we can get them all on Discord. We'll talk about that, but
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Tat.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Alright, so since we can't meet with welding yet, we don't really have any direction per se yet. Yeah.
That is correct. However, Nick, you seem to have taken some classes that have some form of safety training. Is that correct? Yes. So you can think about that experience and then think about how to make that safety training assessment online. Like what type of question you can ask and how to make variations of those questions. So that way it's not, people cannot just go like, okay, Nick, you just took that test. Tell me what the answers are. So you can start to think about that. And I will package up the code that I have at this point and send it to the team. I'll put it up on Google Drive, and I'll probably just kind of remove all the content that is specific to CISP 310 and 440. And then I'll send the library code up so that you guys can start to look into the code. Is there anyone here who is not familiar with JavaScript? Okay, so if you're not super familiar with JavaScript, you can look at my code and then look up documentation online. And so this is an easy way to help you start to learn JavaScript. JavaScript is really, really cool in many ways. If you're looking into how people use the REST API, so that you can have one web resource to talk to another web resource, JavaScript is used amongst other scripting languages. But in JavaScript, there's a concept called a promise. And that allows a lot of asynchronous things to happen so that you don't have to wait for this to happen before going forward to get something else done. Okay. And JavaScript, the way JavaScript gets this done, getting asynchronous things done, quote unquote, simultaneously, is also very interesting because they don't depend on multi-threading. It's not actual multi-threading, but it gives people the pretense of multi-threading. So it's kind of interesting from that perspective. I suspect Python has something similar, but I think Python actually uses multi-threading at the back end. All right.
I don't think Python has multi-threading. Just at the top.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is really core to JavaScript. So JavaScript has really, kind of, it really has multi-threading and asynchronous operations built into, a low-level part of the language. So it's kind of cool. All right. So without any further questions, I will probably finish the recording, and have it uploaded to YouTube so you guys can watch it if you want to. Just for the purposes of taking screenshots and putting into your transmittal for this week. And then we can use the text channel for any further communication. Does that sound good to everybody? Or if you want to talk some more, we can stay online for a little bit more.
That sounds good to me. But I also have a question regarding transmittal because I'm not actually clarified when I've been asked. There's like two types of transmittals to submit, and I'm wondering if we like submit those as like not applicable every single week.
No, okay, Jedediah, that was you asking the question, right?
Yes, that would be.
Okay, so for your first week, it was just kind of admin sort of stuff that you probably didn't even need to put a transmittal. So you could have just on the first week say, just write a note to Randy and say, no project assigned. Okay, but right now for this week, because you've had this meeting, you actually can say, had a meeting, this is the notes, you can screenshot whatever you want on here, but you actually do have a work in progress already for this week. So I or it's called work in process, that's what it's called. Transmittal. So go ahead and fill that out. Anytime you you can't fill a space out in the transmittal in one of the rows, just put an NA. It's just not applicable, and that would be your work in process transmittal. Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? So technically all of you can do a transmittal because the project has already started, right? And this was your first meeting. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And it's just going to be a lot of NAs probably on those rows. Okay.
Got it.
And
Okay.
it's okay. It's kind of expected
It's
at the
totally
beginning.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Cool. So I'm gonna get out of the live stream mode, but I'll kind of keep an eye out on the text channel if you guys want to continue with some discussions. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a nice weekend. If I don't get to talk to you guys again before next week.
Awesome.
Professor
Thank you.
Chack?
Have a good
All
one.
right. Everybody have bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Professor Chack?
Yeah.
Can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah.
For a quick minute.
Yeah.
Okay. let me go for this.
You can talk to me on this channel, or if you prefer, I can direct message and talk to you in private. Either way is fine.
Yeah, it's a bit more. I just wanted to ask something more personal.
Okay. So
I'm trying to disconnect. Sorry, guys. I'm
okay.
Where do I do?
Okay.
So at the
hold on.
at the
Here we
bottom.
go. I see it.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, but
Yeah,
I'll
I
still
mean-
go ahead and call you on the private channel, because the way it is right now is, even though you and I are the only two remaining on this channel, if somebody is to join the channel, they would still be able to hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay,
gonna
sounds
stop this, and then I will call you separately.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.